It's called a promo,
Shut
kid.
your
And
mouth,
if you want to
John.
be the big dog, you're going to have to learn how to do it. So go ahead.
You ready? No! I said, are you ready?
That was good. Glad you finally decided to pull that giant stick out of your butt and have some fun for once in your life.
You're uneducated marks! You sit there on your phones tweeting out your opinions like they're worth a damn. Let me explain something to you people. You don't know shit!
And I'd like to think that maybe this company will be better after Vince McMahon's death.
So like I said, thank you so much. Donovan Dijakovic here in the building talking to us.
It's either Donovan Dijak or Dominic.
Just Dijak.
Dijak? Okay, sure. We know,
Donovan Dijak. Yeah, Dijakovic would still be WWE IP.
Yeah.
So
Oh man.
you can say it. I can't.
First off, happy Independence Day. Happy birthday to America.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Excellent job.
It's been about a week now since the release, since WWE let you go or didn't even care to negotiate, and much to a lot of shock of fans. I want to know, how's business treating you? Seems like it's been going pretty well so far.
Good. Yeah. So the announcement that I made was a week ago now today. I announced on Thursday at 10 a.m. actually right now. So yeah, we're at exactly a week since that. That was my second to last day as a WWE employee. Friday was my last day, and then Saturday was my first day as a free agent. So on that Saturday, I showed up at Blitzkrieg Pro Wrestling unannounced. On Sunday, I showed up just backstage at AEW Forbidden Door unannounced. I mean, unannounced. Like, people knew I was going there, but like the crowds and the fans and the people didn't really know I was going there. And then I've spent Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and so far this morning, basically just doing interviews. I was on Busted Open Radio yesterday.
We listened.
Then getting my bookings in order, right? Myself, my team, which includes my wife, who's been tirelessly working, Paragon Talent Agency, which is my friends Steve K and Mojo Raleigh, who've been working tirelessly on my behalf. So it's really been a group effort to get all the ducks in a row and all the things aligned, because, you know, there's a lot of meet and greets, Comic Cons, pro wrestling bookings, just lots of things lined up, and it all starts today. Today is my first match outside of WWE in 7 years.
Wow. Yeah.
The hometown promotion, correct?
Yep, my first match is Donovan Dijak since 2017. Battle of Los Angeles in Pro Wrestling Guerrilla against Keith Lee. My first match back in Beyond Wrestling since I wrestled and defeated Walter in late 2017. So yeah, this is and it's also in Worcester, Massachusetts, which is my hometown. So it's coming full circle. It's all taking place at the White Eagle in Worcester, Massachusetts, in about 5, 6, 7 hours. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to that. I'm looking to get back in the groove, back in the ring, show everyone what I can do, what everyone already knows I can do, but what I can do to an even higher level at this point.
Thank you. Just thank you for taking the time. I mean, I can't imagine how to do that in like 5, 7 hours, man. Just talking to us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So you showed up in Blitzkrieg, Rev Pro, training sessions. One question I have is that what can a company offer you outside of adequate pay to really get you more heavily involved? Are there any accomplishments you want to add on to your career in this stint?
Yeah. Championships. That's what it's a big piece of my career that's been missing for a long time, right? I've been wrestling 12 years. I think I've won, I don't know. So Chaotic Wrestling is my home promotion. That's where I trained at the New England Pro Wrestling Academy, which used to be the Chaotic Training Center. Last night was my first night as a trainer at the New England Pro Wrestling Academy. So I've always had close ties with them and Chaotic Wrestling. Chaotic treated me very well. I was the heavyweight champion very early in my career. I ended up becoming a Triple Crown champion there between the tag team championships and the New England championship there. Outside of that, I think I've won one title in my career, and it was a side promotion that went alongside Cody and I were still friends, but we were close friends back in the 2016-17 time frame, because he was on a ton of the same shows that I was. So we were traveling the roads together and stuff like that. So he ran a show called Bulletproof or something, because he was in the Bullet Club at that time, and it was in his hometown of Marietta, Georgia. And on that show, it was in coordination with another show, and that show gave me their championship. I think Joey Styles was the booker of that other promotion. So I had that championship for like 1 week until I came back the next week and lost it. That's the only other championship I've ever had in wrestling. I did 7 years in WWE. I never had a championship. And I've been very vocal about saying that I'm the best wrestler in WWE history to never hold a championship since Jake Roberts. And I don't think that's factually inaccurate, because because a lot of people hear that and they're like, that's silly, what a stupid claim. Why would he say something like that? But then when you kind of boil it down and start to think about it, even though I didn't have an extensive main roster run, right? If you include my body work in NXT, which you should, right? Because it's on television now at this point. It's on premium live events at this point. So it's just another branch of WWE. It's not Raw or SmackDown, but it counts, right? We don't pretend those matches didn't happen. So if you include that in the body of work, then there's no real argument, right? I thought about it more than anybody else. There's no real argument for it. So yes, at this point, what I need to do is I need to start making a name for myself in that world, in that department of accolades and championships and things like that, because people know that I can wrestle, right? That's not a secret. 2 months ago, I had won arguably the best match of WrestleMania weekend. So it's not a secret that I'm one of the best wrestlers in the world. The reality is that I just lose all the time, right? He lost another great match. He lost another great match. You and Keith Lee was so amazing. Keith beat you every time for the championship, but it was amazing. Okay, everybody knows that, right? Yeah. Not a secret. So I need to start getting wins. I need to start getting championships, and that's what's starting.
All right. Well, I had a question, actually. Something we've talked about a lot, especially on our show, is the rivalry you had with Eddie Thorpe in NXT. Your character made it personal with Thorpe. I was wondering how some of the decisions created for your character were made that made that rivalry so personal.
It's the vision of Shawn Michaels, combined with the fact that Eddie is such a tremendous worker and such a tremendous he and I are both cut from the same cloth in terms of giving, right? There's a lot of taking in professional wrestling. There's a lot of guys who are worried about themselves and what can I do, and not for the wrong reasons, right? I just gave a 5-minute speech about how I'm worried about myself and my own championships and stuff, because my mindset has always been, let me get the other guy over. Well, my career's run out of time, and now I have to worry about getting myself over. But in my time in WWE, I was never anything but that, right? So, and he's the same thing. So it was just a reciprocal relationship where we were just endlessly trying to make the other one look as good as we possibly could. And that turned into what becomes personal animosity. He brings his family and he says, would you like to, my niece is a huge fan. You want to scream at her and run her down? Wow. Absolutely do that.
Holy crap.
That's when it becomes, when you can make something personal and it feels real, right? Because that's the key to good acting, is convincing yourself. So in those moments, I convince myself that I dislike this person, that I dislike his family, and I don't want to see them, and that I have, there's reasons that I dislike them or whatever, and that's the key to making something feel personal and real. And then I'm strapping him in front of his family, and I know that he and I are on the same page in terms of what we want to come across in this rivalry, and ultimately we're aware of what the payoff of all of this is going to be. So I'm hitting him with my belt as hard as I can, because my intent when I'm doing that is I'm trying to hurt him. I'm not trying to injure him. I'm trying to hurt him. I'm trying to leave marks on his body. I want him to start bleeding because I know that's what he wants and that's what I want, because that's what translates over television. That's what translates in the storytelling, is if it feels real and it feels personal, then the audience is going to be invested. And if you can make it real and personal for yourself, then it's going to translate even better.
Yeah, garner some real heel heat.
For sure, yeah.
Now, going back to that WrestleMania weekend, that Stand and Deliver, everybody's talking about it. You've mentioned it a couple of times now, saying it's one of the best matches of that weekend. After that, of course, you have your name immediately put into the conversation for, to feud with Trick Williams for NXT title, but then find out you're being drafted to Raw. What was your mindset when that happened, and what goals did you have being back onto the main roster?
My mindset initially when I found out the draft was right around that time, or I think it was announced maybe 2 weeks before that. So I saw the announcement and I said, oh, good, this is perfect timing. I'm at the peak of my ascent, right? Outside of the championship, right? If I could have won a championship, that would have raised my stock and value even more. Sure. But I don't make those decisions. I control what I can control, and everything that I've controlled, I've knocked out of the park, right? They've given me 5 live events. They've all been home runs. They've given me feuds on TV. They've all been home runs. Every match, doesn't matter how short, how long, they've all been home runs. So the things that I'm in control of, the promos, the vignettes, all that stuff, it's all had memorable moments. They've lived in television and online, and so all of this stuff, all as a combined body of work, I'm saying, great, this is perfect. They told me 6 months in NXT. It ended up being a year longer than that in my mind, because I was doing so well, right? I was doing such good business. It was working out so well that I took what was just a basic idea, a little stint in NXT, and I turned it into a full-fledged run that's memorable, right? Arguably, maybe not even arguably, probably the best run in NXT that didn't involve a championship, right? I keep going back to that, right? Because if you name all the historic people in NXT, every single one of them is tied to a championship, right? Keith had an amazing run. Sasha, Bailey, Charlotte, the list goes on and on. Tommaso, Johnny, Aleister Black, all the legends of NXT. If you list the legends of NXT, every single one of them has a championship next to their name.
Right, yeah, that's valid.
Even Gable won an NXT championship, and he's a guy who's notorious for having not. The only guys who didn't are the ones who like immediately went to the main roster, right? So in terms of my body of work in NXT, I can't think of a name that's comparable that doesn't have a championship attached to that name, right? So, but that's out of my control. I can't control that. What I can control is what I did. So I feel like I'm at pretty much the peak of where I'm going to get in my NXT run. So I'm saying, great, main roster, perfect. This will be amazing. I start hearing rumblings, right? Nothing confirmed. Nobody told me, but it's wrestling. So I hear through the grapevine, friend of a friend of a friend, that maybe you're going to be in the draft. Okay, great. That's awesome. Because at that point, I expect to be in the draft. I heard the draft was announced. I've been on I've been on NXT for a year and a half. I have a main roster contract. The contract is coming up. The timing is all fitting into place. I just had this great match on Stand Deliver. It seems pretty clear that we've exhausted my abilities as a guy on NXT who puts other guys over, right? So basically, I'm in a creative point where I'm like, perfect. The timing is perfect. It couldn't possibly have worked better. Fast forward to draft night. We get there. I'm feeling good. It's the first night at SmackDown. The whole thing comes and goes, and I'm not mentioned at all. And I see kind of where the chips fell, and I start doing the math in my head, right? Because I expected more NXT call-ups. I think everybody did on that Friday. It ended up being Mello, and I don't remember who else. Mello, and
might have been.
There's like one other.
I think it was Blair, but
I don't remember. But it. No, I think Blair was night 2. I don't remember exactly how it broke down, but there was Kiana James maybe. I think it was because she was night 1. So I think, but she went to Raw, even though it was from the SmackDown. So I think it was Mello and Kiana James and maybe one other, but at most 3. But I think it was 2. So the whole draft happened. It's the whole first half of the draft, and there's only 2 call-ups, and that's when the first seed was planted in my mind and said, "Oh no, not oh no, but uh-oh," like because there's a list of names. I think Braun might have been in that draft too. So that's probably the 3 names is Mello, Braun, and
Sounds about right.
yeah, or maybe Braun was I don't remember. But anyway, you see the names, and then you look around the room, and it's like, they still got to draft this person. They still got to draft this person. They still got to draft this person, this person. And these are it's not hard to look around and say, oh, there's Ilya, he's a former NXT champion. There's Braun, he's a former NXT champion. You're looking around and you're saying,
where do I fit?
There's a list, right? There's a priority list in this company. And I know I've been here long enough. I know what the priority list looks like. And I'm behind 4 or 5 people. So I start saying to myself, if they're only drafting 2 or 3 people from NXT at a time on the television program, and then I saw that Corbin was a supplemental draft pick, and I said, that's a bad sign too for me, because me and Corbin are kind of in the same ballpark in terms of
Putting people
call up. Yeah, putting people over and the middle ground, and he got an NXT. He was an NXT Tag Team Champion at the time. So but that it's just the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, right? I'm not complaining about it. I'm just saying that's what the reality of my situation was. So I'm looking at the in football you call it a what would you call it when it's like the list of the depth chart? I'm looking at the depth chart in my head, and I'm saying I'm maybe number 5 or 6 on this list, and they only did 2 or 3 people on Friday, so that means I'm in trouble, right? Yeah. Because if I'm 5 or 6 on the list and they're only doing 4 or 5 people on Raw, I'm in trouble. That's exactly what ended up happening. I saw the first name in the second or third round. I said, that's not good. That's because NXT isn't at the top now, so there's not more to come. It means that they're not prioritizing them quite as much. And then it was like 4th round, 5th round, 7th round. It started going, and then we got to the end, and I'm looking around the room, and I'm saying, okay, there's a lot of people in here right now that could get picked. I'm on that list, but it does not have to be me. So at that point I said, okay, hopefully I'm the last draft pick on television, because there's a huge discrepancy, whether they're going to admit it or not. There's a huge discrepancy between who they draft on TV and the supplemental draft. Yeah. I've been in the supplemental draft. Lots of my friends have been in the supplemental draft before this. It doesn't go well. Not all the time, right? You can cite some sources of people who've done well in the supplemental draft afterwards. The majority of the supplemental draft, I don't know the percentages, let's call it 80%. A lot of them end up released. A lot of them end up Odyssey Jones. You can't get on Raw. You can't. A lot of them end up Zion Quinn, Von Wagner. It's not a good sign. It's not a good sign. It is a very shoot process where you can see we prioritize you immediately with TV time by putting your name in the draft. That means that we made a decision and we decided that we want your name on television, or we did not. So when they announced that last NXT draft pick, I'm thinking to myself, like, please be me, please be me. Not because I need to get called up or I need to get a raise or I want that fame and glory or anything like that, but just because I know what it means to be in the supplemental draft, and that's a bad sign with my contract coming up in 4 or 5 weeks. I think they announced Blair Davenport. Super happy for her. That's a wonderful accomplishment. Everybody's happy, but in my mind, I then go, okay, I really hope I'm staying in NXT because we don't know, right? I heard the rumblings, I heard the rumors, but I really hope I'm staying in NXT, because if I'm not, I'm in the supplemental draft. If I'm in the supplemental draft, I'm in trouble. I have some work to do. It goes off the air you can watch it on YouTube. It's the announcement. They say that we have one more draft pick, and my head sinks because I go, I know what this is. I know exactly what this is. And yes, it's nice. Yes, it's great that they made a YouTube video that has 180,000 views or whatever. It was a good platform for me at that moment. It felt good for all my friends and colleagues and bosses and coworkers and Sean and everybody to be there and to give me an ovation, and for the crowd to give me an ovation, and all of that is wonderful. But in the back of my mind, I have a pretty solid idea of what this might mean, and it's very concerning, right? Sure. So that's what the thought process is at the time. Lo and behold, I start to see it piece by piece start to unfold in front of my eyes week by week, because I show up to Raw the next week, just happy to be there. You know, it's like it was Hartford, Connecticut. It's about a 2-hour drive from me. I'm a New England guy, so I'm let's go, let's do this. We got King of the Ring. You can throw me in a King of the Ring tournament match, whatever. I'm ready to go. I'm on Raw. Just debut me as Dijak, because I've only ever been T-Bar on Raw. Let's do this. Let's start to show the world what I can do. I wasn't on the sheet, so I said, bad sign number 2. Okay, I'm gonna stay positive. I'm gonna talk to Triple H. I'm gonna talk to creative. I'm gonna say, I'm so excited for this run. Let's do this. Let's get going. Here's some ideas. Let's get going. And I did that. I messaged everybody. I sent my emails. They responded to me. Send us your creative ideas. Great. I can do. I will. I did that. I sent them in. Come to Raw the next week. Nothing on the sheet. I said, I'm in big trouble. I'm in big trouble right now. This is trending in a bad direction, and we need to fix it. I talked with my writer. We wrote up some stuff. We wrote some drafts, 4 or 5 pitches. It's all written out. He says he's going to submit it. He's going to send it up the chain of command. It's going to make its way up the food chain. Perfect. Beautiful. Let's do it. Next week rolls around. I don't know if I get unbooked or if what happens, or somewhere in this next 2 weeks, I get booked for main event. And the second I got the text from main event, I said, we're still trending in a not great direction. We are still on another podcast, I called it a death sentence. That's how it felt in my mind in that situation. Not saying that main event is a death sentence. That's not the Cultaholic clipped this and tweeted it, and everybody destroyed me for it, saying that I think I'm better than I am, blah, blah, and I don't deserve to be on main event. And I was on main event more than anybody on the planet, you know, minus maybe Ali and Ricochet. So I'm the last person to say I'm going to phone it in on main event, and I did not phone it in. But at that point in my career, it felt like a death sentence to me. It felt like one of the bigger daggers that I'd received, because it was all recoverable to that point, right? It's trending in a bad direction. I think I know what this means. I think I know what this means. But once they actively say you're a guy on main event with, let's call it 3 or 4 weeks left of my contract, that's when a big red flag goes, uh-oh.
Yeah.
They obviously don't have a plan for Raw, and they're just gonna use me however they want, and that'll be the end of it. And so I said, this is not a good sign. Main event got changed that week, so I wasn't even on it.
Wow.
Circle back next weekend, back on main event. I was like, really bad sign. Then I got to TV and I'm losing the match on main event. Really bad sign. Right? Again, I'm the last person to complain about losses. I'll lose to anybody in the world. Doesn't matter. It's make believe. It doesn't change anything. It's an indicator of how they feel about you. Yes. That's what it is. And when you're on the show that's not on TV, and you're losing on the show that's not on TV, and your contract's up in 2 weeks, those are very bad signs. So I'm looking at this big body of work, and I'm saying, this is trending very badly. I need to get my agents in touch with them, because in the back of my mind, I'm saying, okay, I have a strong feeling about what all this means, but maybe I'm just paranoid. Maybe I'm just being pessimistic. I'm going to stay positive. I'm going to look forward, and I'm going to say to myself what everybody on the internet is saying, which is that I'm just in a holding pattern until they renew my contract. I know that they haven't made me an offer yet, but I'm like, maybe it's a negotiating tactic. Maybe they're trying to diminish my value before they give me a lowball offer, whatever. we can work it out. I have agents that are working on my behalf in my favor. Maybe that's what it is. Let's press forward and try to get an answer. Well, we press forward. I come back the next week. I'm on speed against Xavier Woods. Okay, at least this is on a show that people actually watch. I'm losing, so that's not great in terms of how I'm being valued in the company. But at least it's a show that people watch, right? It gets 2.5 million viewers on Twitter.
Wow.
So better than main event, right? At least it's something. It's trending in a better direction for the first time in a long time. So okay, let's start to chip away up in this direction. Let's get in contact with WWE. Let's let them know that I'm ready to negotiate. Let's let them know that let's do this. Mojo, my agent, contacts WWE for the second or third time to because he's notified them, hey, I'm representing Dijak. I'm his representation. Negotiations can take place through me. Okay, they know that. They got it. We buzz them again, maybe a month out. Okay, just a reminder, we're whatever. Okay, we got that. That's what's meant by preliminary negotiations are going well. It's been communicated. There's been communication back. That's a preliminary negotiation. No offer had been made at that point. Now the window's closing, right? The window's closing. It's closing in terms of contract. We reach out again. And it's like, hey guys, like this window's starting to close and we still haven't received an offer. We need to know what we're doing here because, Dijak's a human being and he needs to plan for his future and blah, 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 blah. And that's when they got back to us and said, WWE is not going to be making you an offer. And I heard that and it was like, what?
Oh.
Like, what are we even doing at this point?
Exactly.
Like who makes that call? Who makes that decision? What is the thought process behind the decision? Like not even offer. Like they looked at me and they looked at my body of work and said that that's not even worth extending his contract. Like let's not even offer him like half of his money. Like it's the kind of thing that you would expect to hear if you were like going to the boss and screaming at him and being like, you're a piece of shit. I deserve more. Blah, 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 blah. You never gave me a belt. You never this, that. That's the kind of thing where you'd be like, let's get rid of this guy. We don't even want him here.
Yeah.
But for them to say like, we don't even want him here when I've been a model employee and I've done everything that they want and to say that we're not even gonna attempt to keep you around here. That's the kind of message to me that says like we actively do not want you in this company. And that just strikes me as out of left field.
Yeah, wow.
Because I've worked tirelessly for 7 years to give you my best, to not be difficult, to work with, to not be a pain in the ass in terms of complaining about things, to not be spouting off online about my contract's coming up and they're not doing anything and blah, 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 stuff that other people do, right? Yeah. We're not going to name names, but we've all seen it before. We've all seen people publicly complain about things, people publicly complaining about wins and losses and things like that. Everything, all the complaining that I would do online would always be in a promo or in character or something like that, because it's like I'm in retribution. So the retribution angle is I'm not happy with the company, that sort of stuff. So it was never, so I don't know if somebody misinterpreted that or if somebody caught feelings or whatever thing happened that led to this decision. But to me, it was disappointing. It was a disappointing decision. And then and then to pile on to that, I was never told by anyone directly in WWE in any sort of official capacity that they weren't doing this. It was only through my agent. They felt that was enough, which legally it is. From a respect standpoint, I felt disrespected. I felt like I was owed at the very least an explanation or a conversation. I never got that, even though I asked for it. That felt not great. They don't owe me that. All they owe me is the money that we agreed upon in our contract deal, and they always paid me that. And I owed them services rendered, and apparently it was more of a business transaction than they let on, because I was told for a long time that WWE is family and we're all on the same team and family team, this, that, and the other thing. Well, it turns out it's not a family, it's not a team, it's a business. And I bought into the family and the team mentality, which to coworkers, it is. A lot of those people are my friends and my family and my team, and they still are. Even though I'm not on the team, I got kicked off the team by the ownership. They are still my family and my friends and my team. It's the people at the top who tell you that, but then they don't practice it, right? They practice it with some people, but with others, there's no team, there's no, because I would have accepted it, right? If somebody gave me a phone call and said, listen, man, like we think the world of you, but it's a difficult time in WWE. There's so many young kids coming up. We got these guys on top who've been established and been here, and just timing with the retribution stuff and the call ups and the call downs and your contract, and there's this whole money thing going on. We just think that you're in a better position right now to go out on the independent circuit or in another company and make a huge name for yourself, and then maybe circle back in 3 or 4 years and once you've established yourself outside of here, because we just don't have enough real estate to get you to that level here right now. If somebody had that conversation with me, I would have said, thank you so much for this conversation. I would have hung up my phone, and that letter would have never gone out. It would have been the most mutual, amicable thing in the history of contracts ending. That's not what happened, and I felt massively disappointed.
Yeah,
and I felt like this was a thing that needed to be told.
Oh,
and so
it sounds like they have at least now they have this really bad lack of communication. Like the human aspect is gone, and there's just no communication anymore.
With some people, yes. With other people, there's really good communication. It just depends. It depends on how they see you and how they value you. Yeah, it's all just, it's that depth chart, man. I was, for most of my WWE tenure, I was near the middle or the bottom of the depth chart, and that's just the way that the cookie crumbled. And I'm not angry about that. I'm not bitter about that. I have eyes, and I understand that I can see what's happening around me, and I know that that's what the case was. And I wasn't upset about that. My goal was always to work hard and chip away and move your way up. And I thought I was doing that, but from a business aspect, apparently that's a little more difficult. From a creative aspect, yes. From a fan aspect, yes, because people started to really rally behind me, and I could feel that momentum. But from the business, sometimes they put you here, and that's where you're going to be until something changes.
It's really sad, because you sound like you have a really great work ethic, and I think that's definitely applaudable. That's very applaudable, right? And I hope you continue to have that work ethic, man, because it's very inspiring. But you mentioned,
I don't think I'm capable of not having that sort of work ethic. My brain goes into these dark places, right? When you get that phone call, it's like they're not going to be renewing your contract. It's like, there's part of you that just wants to say, like, I don't want to be here anymore. Like, I don't want to deal with this. I need to get out of this situation. But I always circle back and say, you have to prove everyone wrong. Like, the work you put in, what you've dedicated to this, how much you've sacrificed for this. You can't control what someone else's subjective opinion or viewpoint is. You just can't. You can only focus on what you can control. And I'm very lucky that lots of people buy my cameos, and a lot of them ask for advice, or like they're going through a tough time or whatever. And this, you can date back 4 or 5 years since I've been doing these things, and I've always given them the same advice, which is the advice that I have to give myself a lot of the time, which is focus on what you can control, right? Because there's so many things that are out of your control that we all spend time and energy focusing on. I still do it. I still think about, I was talking with my friends this morning about, maybe it was this, maybe this happened, maybe this other thing happened, and we go back and forth. I'm spending time and energy on something I don't control, right? Yeah. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter why this happened. Even if I figure it out and I have this aha moment and somebody tells me, it's not going to change anything. It's not going to change anything. I can only control the things that I can control. So right now I'm in a position where I control a whole lot more of what I have over the past 7 years. And that's a good feeling, because I know how I value myself and I know what I'm capable of, and I can put myself in situations to succeed. And that's encouraging to me, because for a long time in WWE, I was put in situations that were just an uphill battle covered in snow and ice. And you're just scratching and clawing and slipping, and it's very, very difficult.
Give me a hell yeah.
Still, it's really good to hear you have that drive, but maybe switching away a little bit less serious of a topic. I was very curious where your catchphrase "Feast Your Eyes," if from anywhere the inspiration came for that.
Feast your eyes on Dijak.
That's a great question. I don't think so. It just happened to be the first thing that I was saying. When I was in 2012 and 2013, when I was just beginning and starting to get on shows and stuff, I knew that I was twice the size of everybody on the indies, especially at that point, because I was probably 15 pounds heavier than I am right now. So yeah, I knew that I was going to be this big, cocky, condescending bad guy. So I just felt like I needed stuff to scream at the crowd.
Yes.
So the first thing I started saying was God's gift. I was saying I'm God's gift. When someone buzzed me and let me know that was QT Marshall's gimmick in Ring, which is funny because I saw QT for the first time in like 7 years the other day, and he's a really good friend of mine now, and we had a great conversation. But yeah, at that point he was in Ring of Honor and I was literally a nobody. So I was like, oh, you don't want to be the guy who's saying someone else's catchphrase or whatever, right? Like I wouldn't care at this point if like some kid coming up on the indies was saying "Feast Your Eyes." I would laugh, but he would get destroyed on Twitter, right? People would just talk about me. I don't know the context of this whatsoever, but Chad Gable told the crowd to feast your eyes in Boston on Raw Monday. I don't know if a writer did that to get a pop. I don't know if The Office told him to say that. I don't know if he decided to say it as an homage. I thought it was cool because you say that and everybody thinks about me. And then I can quote tweet it and talk about how amazing of a wrestler I think Chad Gable is, because I do. I think the world of him. He and I were supposed to wrestle on Main Event, and that would not have been a death sentence. It would have been one of the most fun matches of my entire life. And we had the whole match called, and then like Main Event often does, it got switched last second, especially because that was under Vince. So Vince would just do whatever he wanted, whenever he wanted. So yeah, I was so close to wrestling Chad Gable, and it got changed last second. So I was disappointed about that. This was 2 or 3 years ago. But yeah, I mean, in terms of just saying it, yeah, I started saying God's gift. Someone buzzed me and said maybe not the best idea, and I say okay. So I started yelling "Feast your eyes." It's not. I didn't invent the phrase "Feast your eyes." It's a common phrase for like, take a look at this. This looks pretty cool, or whatever thing it has. And I just started talking about myself, and I just kept saying it, and it kept sticking, and I kept saying it, kept sticking, and now it's sort of almost evolved into like it almost means like, well, I mean, I used it's the name of my finisher, right? So I call for it with the finisher, and with that, it's more like I'm kneeing you in the eyes, and you know, then you kind of have to eat my knee, and you die basically. But it kind of has a double meaning in that, like, hey, check out this match because it's gonna be the best match of the show. Like that's kind of where it falls into that. But now I have a bunch more catchphrases that I was so excited to get over on Monday Night Raw because I wanted to become like more of a promo catchphrase guy, right? Because I saw how popular they are, right? For a long time, I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be more of like like a Brock Lesnar type, where it's like you just go out there and beat everyone. And because Brock doesn't have a catchphrase, like what's Brock's catchphrase? He doesn't even say them. Like Paul Heyman says them for him, right? So it's so for me, that's kind of how I envisioned myself. But then I was like, yeah, people want to get behind you and they want a T-shirt that says "Yeet" or whose game is it or whatever thing that they just want to have something to shout, to rally behind you. So I came up with "That's enough talk. It's time to do or die, Jack." I was going to start saying that about everything. I was going to say "Welcome to Monday Night Ratio" because I thought that was so. I got this stuff. I got a lot of this stuff over in that first YouTube clip that did very well, but then I vanished off, and now I've just been saying it in like cameos, and I'm going to start saying it on indie promos and stuff like that, which I'll still get a bunch of views. But I really wanted a TV run where I could start being myself, right? Because me as a personality is a little bit more than, you know, glasses, smoke, writing, tape recorder, justice, pain. You know, I've graduated beyond that as a character where I have a lot more depth. I can still have that look and still have that attitude and still be smug and arrogant and whatever, but there's a lot more layers to who I am and how I feel about stuff. And that started to come across on TV and people started to get it. So I wanted to have stuff for people to rally behind. Welcome to the Dijak hijack. I thought that was really good. I thought people would have started chanting that stuff. I mean, it's all good, fun stuff that I can say in character, mean, be angry, but people can rally behind it. So I mean, I'm still gonna do all of it, and it'll still catch on and stuff. I don't quite have that 2 million viewer window to work with, but you know, we'll get there.
They should have let him.
They should have, man.
All right. The last question I have here is actually pretty large one. Could have done the cliche thing, who do you want to work with? But honestly, what I want to know is, with so much substance behind what you bring to the professional wrestling business, what kind of legacy or lasting impression do you hope to leave one day long from now, when you're said and done, you hang up the boots? What kind of legacy as an in-ring performer do you want to leave?
So I have the same hopes and dreams and aspirations that everybody else has in terms of, you know, like I said, I was on the road with Cody for a long time, and I knew that he always wanted to be the top guy, right? Like that was always clear to me. And he'll tell you that I always wanted to be the top guy too. And that hasn't changed. I still want to be the top guy. I still want to win all the championships and main event All In and main event Wembley and WrestleMania and all those things. I want to do that, right? Mm-hmm. I have enough context and knowledge and experience to know that those things are out of my control. You know, sometimes it's just where the chips lie and who's doing what at what time, the timing, the different parts of it. So I'm not going to worry about that, and I'm not going to make that my goal and my drive, right? Because I'm not going to put myself in a position where my life's goals depend on some other guy's decisions.
For sure, yeah.
He can just not like my face, and that's the end of the story, right?
You're done.
At the end of the day, if Vince McMahon and Triple H looked at Cody Rhodes and said, "We don't like your face," that's the end of the story. That's it. It doesn't matter how much the crowd rallies and how much they say we want Cody and all that stuff. At the end of the day, if they don't want to do it, it doesn't happen, right?
Right.
And I'm calling a spade. That's what it is, right? They didn't even need to sign him to the company, right? You don't have to sign someone to the company. So like it's just what it is. So I'm not going to put my fate in someone else's hands. I'm not going to do it. I want my legacy to be for people to look at me and say, that's the greatest wrestler I've ever seen. That's the guy who puts on the best matches I've ever seen. And wrestling is subjective, right? So I don't expect everyone to say that, but I want as many people as possible to look at me and say that, because people say that about The Undertaker. People say that about Kenny Omega and Will Ospreay. People say that about Fit Finlay. People say that about, there's lots of different, Randy Orton. There's a whole list of people that you can look at. Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar. It's a big list, right? There's no one guy. No one's ever looked at the guy and said that's the best wrestler of all time. And it's unanimous and everybody agrees, right? I want to be on that list. I want people to look at me and say, that's the best wrestler of all time. And for other people to say, no, it's Bret Hart. And for them to have a debate about it that actually makes sense and doesn't sound completely out of left field and foolish, right? So that's my goal in terms of what I can control in professional wrestling. And if I can attain that, if I can get to that level, I think the rest of it will begin to fall in place, right? Because it's out of my control. I can't control it. But if people are having me in the discussion of he's the best wrestler of all time, then the other pieces will naturally, whether it's here, whether it's over here, whether it's in this company, whether it's doing this, whether it's that, the pieces will naturally begin to fall into place for what my dreams are and what I hope happens for me. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
and it keeps your name relevant into that
For
kind of
sure.
conversation, which you're a total package. You deserve it.
Yeah,
Deserve
for
it.
sure. Like
Thank you very much.
your talent, your work ethic, like your tenure, like you deserve that push, that main event push. Not
Thank you.
main event, but you know.
Not the showman. We got that. It didn't work.
Leave the past in the past. Well, thank you so much for doing this. This was an amazing experience.
Sure, man.
Very insightful.
Thank you guys very much.
Do it again sometime. Happy Independence Day one last time. For the
Hope
love
to
of
see you.
That's
America.
good. Happy Independence Day, guys. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Somewhere.
Yeah, you have a good one, man.
I don't know if this ends. I've been up all night, baby. I keep it going, catching flight after flight. Hit me up and